Well then, let's talk about your book, Apostolic Imagination. I want to talk about that. Recovering a biblical vision for the church's mission today. What precipitated this book? What brought this about? Because I listened to your podcast when you're talking about it, Strike the Match, and you're talking about the book, and you said this is something that's been in your mind for many years, and you just wrote it, came out this year. Tell us about how this book, Apostolic Imagination, came to be.
Yes, I mean I would say it's probably been the longest of all of my books. It's been the longest in its formation and development and writing. Years ago, I was thinking about just the need to really see a paradigm shift, if you will, in the way that the church, especially the church in the traditionally Western context, thinks about her global task. And really began to think about, we really need to get back to the way that the first century church, understood God, his mission, and their stewardship of what it meant to be Christ's followers, to be kingdom citizens in the world in light of the second coming. And I began to think about this concept of, their imagination was just really different than the way we approach things today. And this is not about reproducing first century culture, if you will. I'm not saying bring first century culture into the 21st century, but the way they thought, the way they viewed things around them was very much what I saw sort of as an apostolic approach. And so I just kind of let that idea just sit out there as I began to work on some other things and pray about some other matters. And, fast forward over time, I started doing some research, and I found out that there were other people throughout the world that were talking about this concept of an apostolic imagination, writing about this. First person I came across was Alan Hirsch, and he had written quite a bit about this, been speaking on this for some time. Even I believe one or two of his books, it's in the subtitle, Apostolic Imagination. And so that's really the backstory. For me, this is really about a paradigm shift in the way that the church is engaging in the global task that we've received.
So let's define these terms, because I shared this with a guy, and I said, I'm reading this book, Apostolic Imagination, and he kind of, his head turned, because automatically when he hears the term apostolic, he has certain images that come into his mind.
Is he still your friend after you told him that you're reading this?
He is still my friend. He is still my friend. He had a lot of questions, because I've been in the field of missiology. I mean, I've studied in it. I've read a lot in it. Not as well read, obviously, as you are, but I'm a layman when it comes to missiology, if you will. And I knew a lot of the terms, I knew the discussion, and he was coming at it completely from the background of a person who just is completely unfamiliar with this. He had ideas in his mind, but define apostolic and imagination and why you brought these two together.
Well, apostolic in using it as an adjective, it comes from a term. It basically means ones who are sent. Imagination is really about kind of our worldview, our perspective, the way we view the cosmos around us. So when I look back at the first century and I go back to the scriptures, I think that during the first century, the apostolic imagination was really a spirit transformed mindset that helped facilitate urgent and widespread gospel proclamation, disciple making, church planting, and leadership development. It really established a mental framework related to the church's strategy in the world. And so that's what I'm getting at when I'm talking about an apostolic imagination. In other words, what was it in that first century mindset that led those believers to engage the world around them in the proclamation of the gospel, in disciple making, planting these churches, raising up leaders, caring for these congregations?